quote, "We all subconsciously agreed Warhammer 40K is real, and now we're just picking sides," end quote. Because whether you think the Imperium is justified or evil says less about sci-fi and more about how you think reality works. Warhammer 40K is a fictional universe that has accidentally become a battleground between the political left and right. In this world, humanity survives under constant siege, by aliens, by entropy, and by literal hell, held together by a brutal empire that has endured for 10,000 years, something no real civilization has ever come close to managing. And this 4-decade-old setting, more than any, reveals the truth behind the competing worldviews of the right and the left. Warhammer 40K presents an extreme choice. Does humanity fight for its survival, both material and spiritual, with everything it has, no matter how flawed we are? Or does it falter and let the gates of hell overcome them? What's interesting is that your answer almost perfectly predicts your political stance. To the right, the Imperium's existence alone is proof of its legitimacy. No human civilization in history has survived even a fraction as long under a fraction of the pressure. By any realistic standard, that's not a dystopia, that's a miracle. But to a leftist, the Imperium might be better than its enemies, but it's leagues away from being enough. It simply demands too much sacrifice, with no promise of a better future. A right-winger might think, "What do you mean it's not worth the effort? Look at the alternative." But the left refuses the premise that the best reality can offer can ever be that bad. The progressive worldview is inherently utopian. If suffering exists, it must be fixable through progress. This is why modern politics treats housing, food, or energy shortages not as strategic limits, but as moral crimes. And since the Imperium doesn't progress and is an enemy of change, it becomes, within progressive logic, a greater obstacle to a future utopia than any external threat. The right can tolerate an imperfect reality, as it doesn't expect heaven on earth. The left, on the other hand, sees heaven as a possible, even inevitable, material reality in accordance with their progressive theory of history. Warhammer 40K will never have an ending. It's too profitable. But if the universe were allowed to end according to modern utopian instinct, it would go something like this. The Emperor of Mankind dies, and with his death the Imperium finally breaks. But as the Imperium's brutal regime fades away, human emotions, striving, and the suffering that fuel the demons would disappear. New societies would emerge and progress to something closer to heaven. Because in the end, the Imperium itself was not the defender of humanity, but rather its jailer. History ends, utopia arrives. No more war, no more suffering, no more sacrifice. The problem is that Warhammer explicitly tells us this is impossible. Its rules do not allow for such an ending. More than that, human nature tells us this ending is impossible. Warhammer 40K understands a truth modern ideology rejects. Evil is not a bug in a system that humanity can patch on its own. It's a part of our flawed universe and our flawed selves. Warhammer 40K isn't conservative propaganda. It's a universe with rules, constraints that demand sacrifice. And whether someone can accept those constraints, even in fiction, says a great deal about whether they're prepared to face them in reality.